All right, folks, I'm trying to put on a serious face here for YouTube. Let's see if I can manage this because I've been laughing about mental illness with beloved for the last 5 minutes. So, all right, serious. We're talking about mental illness. Serious. This is Kenneth Price, and this is Sunday, November 27th. And this is our Sunday morning Zoom call number 53 for the ministry I'm hosting, psychiatric sobriety. Don't make me laugh, beloved. I got to get through my introduction. For the ministry I'm hosting, psychiatric sobriety, for people who are going to unbelieve their own mental illnesses. Because, trust me, I believed in my mental illness for 25 years, and it didn't exist, and it just made me miserable. So we're here to talk about, we're here to unwind ourselves out of the mental illnesses. Okay, how do we do that? It's not up to us, it's up to Spirit. Spirit comes into these Zoom calls twice a week, 9 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday mornings and 5 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday evenings. We say a prayer, we hold on to our hats, and we unbelieve ourselves out of our psychiatric parables. I can do that because I was in one for 25 years. I was in a psychiatric parable / psychiatric nightmare. Countless, medications from doctors, well-meaning doctors who believed in mental illnesses as well, including benzodiazepines, including addictions. Oh, how do you put all this into a 5-minute introduction? Well, I got on my knees and I asked for help, and the cavalry arrived in the form of grace and guidance and a lot of hard work. Today, I'm a completely emerged man. I haven't had a pharmaceutical in years, and Spirit said, get to work, start a ministry, and start to extend the message. So that's basically what we do here twice a week. And disclaimers, I always have to throw in a few disclaimers. I'm not taking this as serious as I used to. When I first started this ministry, I had to take it real seriously, but I'm not taking it seriously. But disclaimers are still essential. Folks, we're not doctors, we're not therapists, okay? We're not here to tell anybody what's wrong with the existing system. We're not here to give any medical advice, because there will be advice that you will get from your higher power. Purpose here is we unwind the psychiatric, we just unwind, period. And then that pushes away all of the barricades, and then the voice comes back, and that is what we do here, to help us find our own inner voices. Call it inner voice, call it higher power, call it the voice of Jesus, call it your inner child. I don't care what it's called, but when that voice returns, that voice will know what's best for you. It's highly individualized curriculum. All right, so I say the healer's prayer before we start every one of these meetings, because I have to get out of the way. It's not about Kenneth. It's about what comes through Kenneth. It's about what comes through Beloved. It's about what comes through Jenny. It's about what comes through Jody. So that's why it's a ministry. My miracle was grace, ultimately. It took a lot of hard work. So God helps those who help themselves. So ultimately, it was a miracle that pulled my soul out of that nightmare. But nothing went wrong in my story. Because of that story, I get to host this ministry. We'll go through this in the next hour. It is being recorded for YouTube for an hour. So if there's something a little bit too sensitive for the internet, wait till after we turn off the record button after 60 minutes. But I say this every time. I invite you to share as much as possible. It's the transparent. When I got my guidance said no more secrets. My guidance said, don't worry about your reputation. It's an illusion anyway. Don't worry about it. Put everything out there and just notice what happens. The more I put it out there, the more I emerged, saw the forest for the trees from above the battleground. And above the battleground, I said, there was never such thing as a mental illness in the first place. Getting off the medications was a lot of work. So if you're on medications and you're going through a withdrawal, you can bring it into this room, and we'll be guided to go in the direction that's necessary for that particular case. All right, I've said too much. This is the healer's prayer. It comes from A Course in Miracles. I said that I'm a course. I haven't said it yet. I'll say it now. I'm a Course in Miracles student, but I did say it was a ministry. I don't care if you're a Course in Miracles student. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Zoroastrian. It's fine. I say that every time. There's only one rule. no fear. Fear is what got me into mine, and love is what pulled me out. Healer's prayer goes like this: we are only here to be truly helpful, and we are here to represent him or her who sent us. We do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he or she who sent us will direct us. We are content to be wherever he or she wishes, knowing that he or she goes there with us, and we will be healed as we let him or her teach us how to heal. All right. I had to put on a straight face to get that 5-minute introduction out of the way, because beloved had me in stitches. I don't know. We left off with the Flintstones, and I told her if we spent the next 60 minutes laughing our ass off about the Flintstones, we will have accomplished a miracle. So who wants to share about miracles and Flintstones? I don't care what you want to share about. Jody, have you met Jenny yet? Jody's been a regular. And Jenny, I think Jody will be able to answer a lot of the questions that you've been bringing into. You brought some very valuable questions into this yesterday's call, and Jody's our go-to. So this is about peer support, getting people connected. So, talk amongst yourselves. Or you can just, and Beloved's going to become a fitness instructor, dancing comedian, and she's going to make fun of spiritual people. And I'm just going to laugh my ass off, and I'm never going to have another, I'm never going to believe in time again, because I'm so busy laughing. How's that? There's the Zoom call. Somebody's got to say something.
Well, I was just, I went out. I am a group fitness instructor, and I proudly say that. And most people say, is that a personal trainer? No, it fucking is a group fitness. What did I say? Personal? Okay, see, aren't I a funny comedian? That's how I would start it out, because nobody knows what we do. Anyways, I'm dancing around, and, when you dance outside to your favorite music mix, and it's got this rhythm and beat, for me, it's like a high. And for others, because it's called endorphins, right? And Chickamauga, I went to college. I'm a lifelong college drop-in. And Chickamauga, I had to memorize how to say that guy's name. I can't spell it, but he talked about the runner's high, how endorphins released. So I was just doing that, and I'm just so high. I'm coming down off of it now. I'm trying to, eat some dates and apples, and I was sharing that this idea that my company is working with came when I was manic, and before I even knew anything about fitness. I didn't know anything, and who knew? It all downloaded. It's like you get information, but you don't understand it. But it all came to me, and it's taken maybe 40 years for me to be here now and able to use the pieces. And I was telling Kenneth that, I try to be businesslike and serious, but I just don't have it in me. And I took a photo shoot, and, on the top, I have this white shirt and black jacket. On the bottom, I'm wearing some crazy leggings. I can't take it serious, but I'm trying to be businesslike. And then I go out and I dance, and I'm just doing this and I get everything I need. I didn't have to sit down and bang it out and do blah, blah, and hey, Greg, and do all that stuff. I didn't have to do none of that stuff. It just like came down. So, I'm in a good mood.
Maybe that's one of the places we had not touched on endorphins yet. Now, and I haven't shared about endorphins yet, but maybe I get a little bit serious. I hope not too. One of the ways I managed for years was running. I couldn't control what was happening up here, but I certainly could control my body. Spirit said, not a problem. Put your running shoes on. And I went for 20 miles once, not quite a marathon, but, when I was coming down off a lot of those meds, running. I don't know, just throw that up. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, well, to me, fitness is a ministry, because that was a tool that was very valuable to me managing bipolar. And to distinguish between my immense power and when it's mania. and mania is not bad. It's just bad because you don't know how to handle that kind of energy. You have, that's the work Kenneth's talking about. I'm a Course in Miracles student. So I had to bang, my head against the wall a few times before I could train my mind. And when I discovered training a body, and that if I followed everything this trainer had set up for me to do, bam, bam, happened to my body, I was intrigued and I loved it. I love things that I think I can just, control. And so, so mind training was never occurred to me. I didn't, I don't, what the heck is mind training? Body training was just an enlightening thing for me when I learned how to discipline my body, what could happen, and the things I could do with my body, even after 3 kids. I started my career late. I was in my 40s. Hey, Chris, what's up?
Hey, Rana.
All of our people, I'm so happy to see us all. Just all this wonderful energy makes me happy. But yeah. So where was I in this delightful story of mine? The point being, oh yeah, mind training. That was the next level. The body was fine and banging, but then the ego got in the way. Now, Kenneth, I know you can identify. Once upon a time, we was like, bam. Not that we okay, but we were bam. It was important. And the ego was, of course, came in and just got the thing about in bipolar, and I've studied it because I couldn't accept what the doctors are saying, and they don't know why the cause and what it is from, but here we're going to treat it. That was not acceptable to me. I said, I'm going to figure out my own damn self. And I just read, I do a lot of reading, blah, 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 blah. And so this is a tool I use. I discovered fitness. I discovered running like Kenneth did. I was a runner. Oh my God. It was so, that runner's high is, yeah, you can't explain it. It's like, well, I can, because it's like mania. Many of these things, when people I discovered for myself through my fitness career, is the same as mania. It's just really feeling good. It's just really feeling good. And you're healthy with it. You have a healthy mind and energy with it. So because my energy was stressed and fearful and ego driven and stuff like that, I could look all banging and healthy and beautiful as I wanted, crazy as a Looney Tune. Just crazy as
boy. You and I have the exact same story, beloved.
Yeah, crazy. But it don't matter in this society. If you look good and pretty, they don't care. They will forgive you everything. They will forgive you everything. It's just so stupid. It's so crazy.
Oh, I know. I got called out by a friend 12 years ago. She said, you used your looks to get away with murder, Kenneth, but I don't want to go into that. That's too much of a segue. Who wants to do a check-in? We got Chris, Greg, Jody, and Jenny. Anybody for a check-in this morning? We got 45 more minutes, and I've got to give everybody a heads up. I might have a delivery here. I'm on a construction site. So if the delivery people show up during the Zoom call, I'm going to have to mute and stop my camera, but the Zoom call will keep going. So who wants to do a check-in? Beloved, you always bring up 10 different topics, but we got to pick and choose our battles here. Jody's unmuted.
Everybody's frozen, so I don't know if it's you or if it's me or if it's just a weird connection. Can you hear me?
Well, we can hear you. You're frozen. Nobody else is frozen on my screen. So, but as long as we can hear you, I think that's fine. Now we can't hear you. Yeah, I think Jody's got a connection issue. There, I think you're back. You want to try it now?
Well, that answered my question. It's me. I don't know what to really say today. I'm going with the flow. I'm riding the waves, and it's not easy. Being drugged for so long, I've not been good with emotions. And so I'm going through another upheaval of emotions, and I'm learning a lot. I'm so grateful for this last lesson as painful as it is, I'm really making good progress with allowing my emotions to flow out of me in a healthy way. And it's really hard. And I'm doing it. And I'm really proud of myself.
Jody, I'm so glad you brought that up. Remember, I mean, I've told the whole world that I was 25 years drugs, and emotions for me and feelings. I was just working yesterday, and I'm doing work for the Living Miracles community. That's why you see all the framing in the background. I was telling, David's wife yesterday, I said, I've got to really stay busy because and that's fine, it's helping the ministry anyway, but because I'm going through so much sadness. When my mother died, I said, where are my tears? When my father died, I said, where are my tears? When my sister, and that was like, truly, for the serious part of this ministry, I had to relinquish all those pharmaceuticals and start to get in touch with my feelings. Now, I had plenty of rage. I had never had a problem with anger, but this sadness is all brand new to me, and that's great. I know intuitively that this sadness has got to be felt, and so I work 12 hours a day. That's fine. I can work and feel at the same time. Thank goodness it's manual labor. We kind of shifted the conversation from runner's high to feelings, but I'm glad you brought that up. Jody, we're both in the same boat. We're being gentle on ourselves by no fault of our, and like we always said, we're going to be better off for it, because we'll have a testimony behind us. Boy, the grief work though, I'm on board with it. Maybe we can talk about the grief work for this, because I know we're all of us, as we surrender the meds, this is where my work is. I can't really do the mind training and get to the beliefs until I've uncovered the feelings themselves. So I shared it with the whole world.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about that on Wednesday, about how, it's almost like being on these drugs allows you to kind of brush your emotions under the rug, or kind of like store them away, and coming off of them, it's like the dam breaks, and it's strange. It kind of doesn't really break all at once either. It seems to come in different waves and different, I've had periods where I'll be hit with a delayed emotion, especially grief being one of them. I had an experience earlier this year that I was grieving a dead family member. She died years ago, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I had to remember that she passed. I had to, it was like as I was experiencing it for the first time. And I think it was because I was experiencing it for the first time. I hadn't allowed myself, or I really wasn't able to fully connect with those feelings and feel them at the time, because I was on a high level of the antidepressant I was on, and it took coming off to be able to feel it. So it's almost like we've got all this catching up to do.
And I was in the car yesterday with a mighty companion, and I just made it very simple. In order to heal it, I gotta feel it. I think I heard that from Jody. But one of the misnomers is that we have to be all healed in order to fill in the blanks, which is simply not true. Some of the best, wounded healers are going through theirs while they are, we go through ours. That's what I've said 100 times. We're going to all go through this together. That's why they call them mighty companions. You will not, I wish I could just quote the Course in Miracles verbatim, but you will, basically what it says, you will not go through this alone. The 12 steps say the same thing. Surely you will meet some of us as you trudge the road to happy destiny. I'm not reinventing the wheel, except for the fact that we're all coming off psych meds and benzodiazepines together.
Were you finished, Jody? Was that all?
That's enough for now.
Okay.
You want to speak on that, Greg?
Well, I think I'm better at allowing my feelings to happen. I did have some feelings not too long ago, and I was like, yeah, I think it was the night before Thanksgiving, and I don't want to get into politics at all, but I saw a bunch of people in rural Alabama walking down the road in the middle of the night with flags and military formation. And I saw it was mostly, don't want to get into politics or controversy, but it was mostly white men. And I saw anger, and I saw paranoia, and I saw fear. And then I saw, I realized I had no family on Thanksgiving. And then I was with the homeless. And then I saw a friend of mine who had turned out to have done a lot of drugs, too many drugs. And I had to feel a lot of reality, a lot of sadness, a lot of bad things. And I had to not try to escape those feelings. I had to feel that, and that's taken probably until now from, Thanksgiving to even catch up with all that. Right now, though, my biggest problem is, I was going to ask y'all for help about this. I think me and Kenneth are on kind of the same page about a lot of things, especially maybe the 12-step groups. I don't know whether to do it or to not do this, because I kind of like Al-Anon, but I don't want to do that or therapy if it perpetuates my ideas that something is wrong. I don't want it to be there to make me think that there's something in me that needs to be fixed. I think a lot of the times things are in the opposite direction. It's that things are going to be okay, rather than fixing a problem, realizing that there is no problem. So I'm not really sure if I should be doing Al-Anon or not. I don't, I guess, it's kind of an illusion that, I could get caught up in the headspace thinking that, I don't know how to put it, but that there is something that's gone wrong. Sometimes it's more of our attitude that needs to change about things than actually changing some sort of situation. So I guess you could say reframing it, Kenneth. How you speak of reframing things. I just don't want to get into the spot to where I think that something's wrong. So I don't know what to do quite with that. I've been thinking about it. I don't want to give up, but I don't want to think that there's something wrong, I don't know. Does that make sense?
I'm hearing every word you're saying, Greg. I want to speak to that, but I want to give the group a chance. I don't want to monopolize the group if anybody else would prefer to speak to that, because that's very valuable.
Yeah.
And that's valuable material for this call especially.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead,
Chris wants to speak to that.
Yeah, Greg, that what you're talking about, I know I always bring up these meditation classes I do, but what I liked about my teacher would always classify the meditations as self therapy, and I thought it was really interesting because it's a practice that allows you to go within and kind of just investigate without judging or trying to change necessarily. I don't know if that speaks to kind of what you're asking about, but yeah. I like that approach because it's just you're like you're an investigator. You're trying to be unbiased, and you're investigating yourself, your inner emotions, and really like the emotion or the hurt that's maybe causing the unwanted behavior, unwanted whatever it is. It's like, well, we're not going to judge the behavior. We're not going to judge what's happening, but we are going to look at it. And we're going to try to understand it, and whatever emotions come up, like it's been said in this group before, like we're going to invite that emotion in for tea and sit down. And there's different meditation practices that kind of allow you to do that. And I like that because it feels less judgmental and less like you're trying to fix yourself and improve yourself, and which often comes with shame. This is purely just a way to like get to know yourself better, and kind of which is what we're all trying to do, right? Trying to investigate, like sometimes a reframing I'll hear is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. Might be that's something I hear sometimes in those groups. But anyway, just wanted to share that, if that's helpful at all.
Yeah, I think you got me. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like with the grief, sometimes we try to fix that grief so much we forget what we feel, but go ahead.
Greg, what you shared is a very common dynamic in the 12-step community. And I didn't want to, jump in right away, but I've got a lot to speak to what you just shared, because my first boy, I remember I should write a book, on my adventures first entering 12 steps, oh, here's what's wrong. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's what's wrong. Mm-hmm. That is caterpillar 110%. Mm-hmm. You can't put a square peg into the round hole. And you almost have to, lock yourself in a room, with just the 12 steps to meditate on those 12 steps, because that's not what Bill W. But it takes a completely new mind to be able, and you cannot if you enter the 12 steps with the old mind, it's going to turn into another religion. And that's what I hear you struggling with, because all of us have been there, but the struggle itself is the parable of the emperor moth. Remember last Sunday, the parable of the emperor moth? Mm-hmm. We are here to honor that struggle, because I went through that struggle, and hopefully, by sharing with you my testimony, your struggle will happen. You're going to get a lot quicker. In other words, I was in my early 20s, and it's actually what I want to say more than anything else, Greg, is good work. This is a good sign. The struggle itself means, you're breaking out of that cocoon. And the struggle is by itself is to be expected. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What is it that I wanted to speak to 12 steps? This, by the way, this Zoom call is 12 steps. This Zoom call is out. The only thing Al-Anon is trying to emphasize to its attendees is that the problems, Al-Anon is basically cause effect. People go into Al-Anon thinking my husband's the problem. Mm-hmm. And a good sponsor will say, no, that's cause effect in reverse. But we're not going to use the word problem. People go into Al-Anon thinking the spouse is the cause and I'm the effect. And Al-Anon is the reverse polarity, saying you are the cause, your spouse is the effect. That's the same thing as the Course in Miracles. That's why I started the group on Saturdays. Course in Miracles, the 12 steps. Cause effect. Mm-hmm. It's not about problem solving. Although, well, I don't want to try and get too deep into the metaphysics, but I hear you, buddy, and you're doing great work. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, well, that gave me some insight. Yeah. Uh-huh. Thank you. I'll just tell my sponsor, what's up, and maybe
I have to use the word problem very carefully. Mm-hmm. because we do have to come out of denial, but Greg, you're not in denial. So just take the word denial and throw that out the window. The word problem is for people who come into the rooms as newcomers and say, the problem's my husband, the problem's my husband, the problem's my husband. And the sponsor has to say, no, the problem is you. But you're way beyond that. So throw that word out the window. Yeah. Jenny, let's get to Jenny now. She's the third call. I think the third call that she's come on. Just love third or fourth call. I can't remember. Love to have you, sweetie. I still haven't had a chance to get back to you because I'm still underwater with this project. But how you doing today? What's going on?
I'm doing okay. How are you? Oh, fine.
Doing good.
Say, I was really excited about the prospect of coming off my medication, and I had a conversation with my doctor about it, and some fear came up. And the next thing I know, I'm taking more medication, but it's just temporary, so, until the mania calms down, and then we'll reduce down to one medication, but he's not open to taking me off all my medication.
Right.
Now, remember, Jenny, your decision to go in that arena has got to be done with precision, calculated, wise approach. And I don't know anything about that, but there are plenty of people who do. Remember, we're here for the spiritual component. So I herald you for setting, what you've done is you've set the intention. You said, I want to heal, I want to emerge. And I invite you to watch my video, on taper schedules, because everyone is saying, give me a taper schedule, give me a taper schedule. Well, the voice finally came to me, let's get connected and let your higher power give you your taper schedule. Way far out there, but somebody had to finally come out and say it. So good work.
My doctor gave me taper schedules. So, good. I mean, I just started thinking, oh my God, what if I'm just doing this because I'm manic, and because I've had some signs in my life that show me that my mania is ramping up, and I don't want to spend Christmas in the hospital. And I told my doctor that much, and that's why he tripled my Risperdal temporarily for the weekend. So I'm kind of sedated like right now. So
Jenny, you are the perfect. Your sharing is perfect for this group. We sometimes go so deep into metaphysics, we go deep into spirituality, but sometimes we need to get back to basic. What is the purpose that I've set out for this ministry? And so I just want to say thank you, and remind you of how beautiful I know everyone else would agree how beautiful a person you are.
Thank you.
I don't care if a person's medicated, stoned, missing limbs, it's our job to see in you what's ultimately true. You already are the butterfly. It's just the joy that you give to us is that we get to love you and see the butterfly until you see it.
I already see it though. I think I do pretty good. I have a really nice life.
You do splendid.
I mean, I'm not in a dark night of the soul right now. I'm having a great time. I'm having a wonderful time. So it's just like sometimes when I get more impulsive, the more I want to experience, and the more I seem to draw these kinds of experiences into my life. And I might not be making a lot of sense, but
to me you are.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to read the essay What a Shaman Sees in a Mental Hospital?
Yes, I did.
It's one of my favorites, by the way.
Or listen to the Wayseer Manifesto by chance?
Yes.
No, I didn't listen to that.
Oh, let me find a link for you and put it in the chat. It's amazing.
And I shared about my aunt before. My aunt was diagnosed with fill in the blanks. and remember who was the one who saved me from suicide? Oh no. I'm rewriting this entire narrative of mental illness. It's because her heart was so huge that all that, and this goes back to what Beloved was saying, because her heart was exploding with love, mania and depression was coming out. It's because, but that huge heart was necessary in order to save this man's life. So, tell some people to put that in their pipe and smoke it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I redefine the reason for everything.
Yeah. I remember my quote, Krishnamurti, to be well adjusted to an insane society is not a sign of mental health. Come on, you guys. I'm tired. You gotta pick up the slack for this call. We got another half hour. I've been working so many long hours.
Somebody asked me what was wrong with me today, and now for the first time I described it without using the words bipolar or anything. And what I said was basically, at one point in time, I was under a lot of stress, and it caused my reality to alternate and change. And now it doesn't take as much stress, and I still get this alternative reality.
I got to speak to that. I can't help it. Reality. Everyone knows I'm a Course in Miracles student. Everyone knows my teacher's David Hoffmeister. Have you had a chance to research any of David's lectures yet? Because he has a few poignant things to say about reality. By the way, he does it much better than me because he gets this big old belly laugh. You know, he goes, "Hey, somebody thinks this is reality." But he backs it up with the metaphysics, and he backs it up with a photographic memory of the Course in Miracles, based on, he's got one single discipline, so he's not all over the map like I am. And actually, most spiritual teachers, there are a lot of grand spiritual teachers out there, but I found one. But reality and stress too. Yeah, stress was a huge one in my story, Jenny. Stress was triggering my illnesses all over the map because like beloved Grace was sharing earlier, we didn't have the mind training. I still have to do, and I'm still not very good at mind training. I have to get through the feelings first. But let me get back to the topic of reality. Yeah, I would highly invite you to explore some of the lectures by David Hoffmeister. They're all free. He's got thousands of hours on the internet, and he was the one who began, when he described to me that this is not reality. And I don't know, Jenny, you're new here, so you haven't heard me share. I had several near-death experiences. They were shamanically induced, but it doesn't matter how they were induced. And I can verify what David Hoffmeister has said. This is not reality. And which goes right back to what Krishnamurti, saw. All these saints and all these mystics and all these way-shower manifesto can all agree that this is not reality. So when people, it's an upside down world, cause effect. It's just that those of us who are going through the birth canal, before most of the others, all the caterpillars are pointing fingers at us and saying, "Oh God, look, that person's dying." A shaman sees in a mental hospital. Went on another tirade.
I was reading about Dr. David R. Hawkins, and he said that what happens when somebody has what society sees as a mental break, they rush and interfere before the person can process it. And nobody's there to process it. Then they just rush him to the hospital and suppress it and this, medicate it. And he said they never get a chance to go through it. Right. And, I felt like that with my whole manic experience. Nope, I didn't whatever they call that. I should have been able to really go, what the fuck happened? What the fuck happened here?
Thank you.
No, they just okay, here's your diagnosis and here what you got to do. It's just like wearing glasses. You got to take this pill every day. So. I can't not speak to that. Listen, mine started in the late 80s with family, no fault, no blame. My family, my grandfather died, and the family business began to fracture, and my mother began to fracture. My father, my brother, we all fractured, and there was a trust fund. I went to an attorney. How I was in trauma as a 20, and then coming out as a gay man. And I've told Beloved, the fact that I'm still here is a miracle, and then, the mental health system, they had no choice. They had to put me on those pills to save my life. I was going Looney Tunes, and I actually was becoming dangerous to myself and dangerous to others.
They had to. You know, and this brings back what Dale and Dale Blackford, you know, thank goodness you were on board yesterday, Jenny, because you got to meet Dale. You met the man who was the first one to pull me out of that. You know, my biggest fear when I met Dale 12, 13 years ago was I asked him a poignant question. I said, Dale, I'm coming off a Klonopin. And have I, number one, damaged myself? Number two, am I no longer a candidate for a spiritual awakening because of what I've done to myself? Jenny, that man did not miss a beat. He said, no way, shape, or form are you able to slow down or stop your spiritual awakening. He said, you can't. He said, you've chosen to awaken, and good luck trying to stop it. He said, for you, it's awakening or bust. Those are not his exact words, but I want to hold that true for you as well, because I see in you where I was when I was, and you're about the same age. Well, we're not going to talk about age here because Beloved's going to correct me, but you know, I'm looking in the mirror and I've got out my crystal ball and I'm giving you your, and I'm also going to give you some homework assignments too, because you said you wanted some coaching.
Yeah.
So Wayseer's Manifesto, David Hoffmeister. Those are your two homework assignments.
Okay. Okay.
Because I want you to, you know, I want you to be you know, singing the Flintstones with Beloved and I, you know, and I know you, and you already are. So, and by the way, it's no accident that you found us or we found you. Remember, I've said this 100 times. This ministry is spirit guided. You know, all of us have assembled for a very valuable and sacred assignment. It's called healing.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're documenting it for YouTube because, you know, we don't know where this is all going, but we know this is because people have got to start now that the data is in. I mean, a lot of these psych meds have only been, you know, engineered in the last, you know, 20 or 30 years. No one knew that long term. Now that we know long term, there's going to be a wave of I mean, we're just the beginning of a wave of people who realize, you know, that they've got to come off of them. But now that we are in the great awakening, by the way, and that might be your third homework assignment. You know, time to start researching. And I don't know how much you have done. We haven't had our private yet, but we are in the time of the great awakening. So the time is now. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. But the planetary, you know, vibrational frequency is accelerating, you know, exponentially. And now what's possible, that's why I tell people, don't go into stories, no past stories, because what's possible now may not have even been possible 5 or 10 or 5 years ago. It's possible now. I want to say fresh slate. We're in the ground floor or something, in other words. How about we can talk about the Great Awakening? I've included that in some of my videos too. It's important that we bring that into this component, you know, so that we don't go back and looking for other people's timelines. No more timelines.
I don't want to be self-obsessed, but I think the problem with my
Greg, you're fading.
Oh, I'm fading?
Yeah, turn off your camera, see if we can get a better connection. Sometimes it'll free up bandwidth.
Can you hear me?
No, you're turn off your camera and see if you can free up bandwidth that way. Okay. We got about 15 minutes left, folks. The Great Awakening. We got so many good topics. Runner's High, the Great Awakening, Mania.
Well, I love the Great Awakening because that is for everyone, and it's consciousness. It's consciousness. It's not personal. It's consciousness, and where you are willing and open to raising your consciousness. And in this energy, it makes it almost effortless if you can raise your vibration. You can't get it if you're down in the dumps. You're just not going to get it. You can't, it can't access you. It cannot access you. It just
Those
can't.
are some of the practical tools then. And I
You
think Jenny's
have
asking for some
to
practical
go.
tools.
If the sun's out, sit in the sun. Eat organic if you can. Hug yourself if you're able. Love on somebody for no reason at all. Watch things that make you laugh. You know, listen to music that makes you dance. It's easy now to do those things, even if they were unthought that you could ever be happy in this life again. They are now accessible to us all, and we just have to say help.
And
everything is
that,
waiting here to help. That is what the Great Awakening means. All the ascendant masters, every angel, every whatever you want to call it, they're all here just waiting for us to say help. Help. Help me.
There was something that Dale said yesterday that just clarified it. You know, I wonder if I can regurgitate that. You know, my ego would run in when I was, you know, going through my withdrawals and inside of my cocoon and say, you must, if you're not able to go out and rate, if you go outside in the sun and it doesn't make you feel better, you must be doing something wrong or it must not be working. Those are two ego responses that I can now speak to. Nothing's going wrong and it is working. The ego, that's why, Jenny, I highlight, you've heard Beloved and I, you know, use the word ego, and I hope you're familiar with it, because if you and I start working together, we're going to be using that word a lot. We've got to realize, Jenny, that there really are two voices. There's the voice of spirit. That's why it's got to be a ministry, voice of spirit and voice of ego. Mental illness, in order to survive, mental illness is just the voice of the ego. But since psychiatry doesn't believe
it is.
Pardon?
That is what it is.
It is what it is.
That's what I'm just putting a exclamation point and underlining what you just said.
Mental illness is what?
It's the voice of the ego. This is the discovery that Beloved and I made upon our emergence. Beloved and I got in a helicopter. Mm-hmm. We got above the forest. We looked down and we saw it with clarity. And you know, and my helicopter descended back into the forest. But once I had seen it for the first time, when I was above the forest, I saw there was a way out. I saw that the forest wasn't a medical diagnosis for the rest of my life. As soon as I got, you know, high enough to see the trail out, I descended back down and I said, all right, Kenneth, now that you know there's a way out of the dark forest, start hiking. And that's what we do here. We hike. You know, for many people in the mental health system, they're in the dark forest and they've kind of like, oh, it's so dark and it's so lonely and it's so frightened. And you know, I'm here to speak because then you know, I hiked all the way out, and you've heard my dark forest analogy. And now a wounded healer doesn't go out, you know, into doesn't escape the dark forest and, oh, I'm out of the dark forest. I think I'm going to go to Puerto Vallarta and sit on the beach. You know, what would be the purpose of the dark forest if I got out to go to Puerto Vallarta and retire on the beach? No, we go back into the dark forest. It's what a wounded healer does. He goes back into the dark forest and he sits with those who are lonely and scared and frightened and think that this is all there is and think that this dark forest is reality. That's what Jesus did. He knew it wasn't reality. He went into the dark forest and he said, this isn't real, folks. And he pointed to the trail. We're trailblazers, way showers manifesto, trailblazers. Mm-hmm. And then he said, pick up your mat and walk. And then he said, follow me.
y'all know Terrence McKenna, right? Yeah, he said that. I'm just thinking about what everybody's saying. He, I don't have the balls that he has in his group did, but I remember when he said he found a special type of psychedelic, and he said they had a really hard trip. I guess you could say. They said something like it took like 2 weeks to process what they did, and he said if somebody had come down and saved us, from that trip, taking us out of the Amazon, which is where they were when they had their first hard trip. If they weren't able to come out of it on their own and to integrate it, they said they would have really been messed up. But I think that's kind of what we're talking about. If somebody comes and saves us from these things, we're going to really be messed up. We have to process this, So I think that's what Beloved was saying. I think that's what I'm hearing too. I just thought of that as an example. Terrence McKenna said that him and his friends were in the Amazon. They had found some really powerful psychedelics, and they were thinking about getting help, but they thought, well, if we get help, they needed to process it. They needed to go through it. So, yeah. And with Al-Anon, I'm not sure, we talk about, they say that we're the problem, it's not the alcoholic. I'm not sure I've got problems anymore. I was going to
Greg, I got news for you. All dream characters are a mess. Every single dream character is a now, these are like loop to loop. If we can emerge from the dream, awaken from the dream above the battleground, we'll realize that every single human construct is actually a human construct is a problem in itself, which makes us, instead of trying to fix it, we start to laugh. It's funny.
Right.
So I'm really cautious with the entry level, vocabulary that the 12-step program, has relied on historically, because the word problem, needs to be, we can say the word problem as long as we're jovially laughing, at the problem itself. Unless, of course, we're wrecking cars, then someone's got to sit us down, and then sit us, say you've got a problem. That's when a person's got to come out of denial. But I'm not good at tough love.
Well, I just that's kind of been my thought too. It's like, don't save me unless you see me walking off a cliff. Absolutely walking off a cliff. Maybe I've never been suicidal before, but I heard one person say,
You've never been suicidal before?
Not really. I've kind of had thoughts like, Lord, take me, but I've never been the type to give up. I've always kind of, I've always had like an unrealistic hope almost, well, not unrealistic, but a hope. I mean, I've said a lot of the times I've said, kind of like, Lord, let me die. But, I think it was more of it's kind of like, I heard somebody say, that suicidality is not really suicidality. It's the realization that something has to change. Something has to change. It's not necessarily something you need to medicate or something that needs to be fixed. It just, that Lord, let me die feeling just means that something has to change. And I think of it more that way than anything else, How
about Chris? Chris, do you want to speak to some of this? I want to make sure we get around and get some of the input, because we only got about 7 minutes left.
Yeah, no, it's just fascinating. I was thinking of a couple topics, listening to everyone, because I certainly relate. Like, I just don't believe in mental health diagnoses like I used to. And I've spoken on this a little bit before, but there's such strong like identity markers, right? We can like identify with these labels, and then for me, I didn't even realize I was doing this at the time, but I identify with my feelings, whatever feelings or symptoms I was having. I thought that was me, and now I look at feelings and mental health symptoms as, and this is what was brought up throughout this meeting, cause and effect. I think there's a cause and effect to what we feel. And then I think there's also perception that we have. It's usually based off the feeling we're stuck in. That perception is what we're seeing the whole world through, right? If you're really angry, if you ask someone who's really angry what they think of something, they will give you a very angry answer. That's like how they're seeing the entire world. And why are they angry? There's probably a cause and effect to that anger. And I think that same formula applies to psychoses, depression, anxiety, OCD. That's what I was diagnosed with. All these things that there's really, I used to be so scared of those things. And, mental health symptoms are so scary because, some people are crazy and some people aren't. And now I just look at them as like, oh, okay, something happened to this person. Maybe in their childhood or some kind of trauma. And then maybe there's, like to Beloved's point, maybe there's some diet and exercise that needs to change. And then there's some mind training that needs to change. And all these things, if I can tell a quick story, for many, many years, I avoided all drugs. I never touched any drugs until I was 30, and I smoked weed for the first time. But I was on this SSRI, on Paxil for decades, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was experiencing all these drug effects, like derealization and not feeling like you're in your body or that the world is real. Things that if you were to take a psychedelic and feel those things, no one would bat an eye. They'd be like, yeah, that's part of the psychedelic. That might happen. But I was taking this SSRI and feeling all these wild effects at certain times in my life, always thinking it was me, identifying or relating the feeling to my identity and identifying with that feeling. And so it was just like, okay, that's who I am. And I need these pills to supplement, to kind of stave off these feelings that are obviously me. And it wasn't until I took, another substance, took cannabis, and actually felt some of these same feelings that I realized, oh, there's just a cause and effect to a lot of what we feel based on maybe what we're putting in our body, how we're treating our body, and how we're thinking about our perception, how we're choosing to kind of interpret all of the input that's coming in. So I don't know if that's what you mean, Kenneth, with kind of like seeing the forest through the trees, or that kind of 1,000-mile, perspective. But yeah, that definitely shifted things for me. And I thought, wow, if I'm not my feelings and if I'm not my perception, it kind of triggers this existential crisis. What are you? Who are you? Who's watching? Who's feeling what?
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to share those thoughts.
Yeah, that's good.
Chris, that's a great. We gotta wrap up the recording. I'll leave the Zoom room open, but great, Chris. That's perfect. I mean, again, I get several times. Who's the one? I mean, Muji 101. Muji. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up this Zoom recording. I'll leave the Zoom room open. Kenneth Price on Sunday, November 27th. I think this is either our 53rd or our 54th Sunday morning Zoom call for psychiatricsobriety.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave your comments below. Join us. I need your participation, and may the force be with you. God bless. Have a great week, and see you on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Bye.